Mike's point, at the expense of the relationship unless there's something that compromises the core of the business.
Yeah, and I want it, this is a huge thing. I want you to, as a division manager, think about that. There's 3 different things that he does here. And this is one of the things where I've seen Mike make huge improvements. Where early on, he actually made a mistake of pressing people too hard at the cost of the relationship sometimes. Mike, I hope you don't mind me saying that. Whereas now, you haven't really relented on how hard you press them, but you were able to amp up the personal relationship side of it to retain them in it, or to say, listen, it's not going to work with this person. I mean, it's a foolish thought to think that you're going to keep everyone, because not everybody's going to want to be around standards that high. But this is a really, really important piece of skill that Mike has added into the business. Okay, Mike, if he knows it's going to help them, he doesn't apologize for it. He doesn't say, I'm sorry I'm making you. It's not about that. For Mike, it's about, listen, I know this will help. I mean, you don't apologize for helping somebody, okay? Because Mike doesn't lead people in a way of doing things to him or to them. It's for them. Now, the 3 things that have to take place simultaneously, and I have them here, is you have to know your objective in each interaction you have with your people. Mike knows his objective. When he sits down with somebody, what am I doing here? Well, sometimes it's just building a relationship. Sometimes I'm taking this person whose behavior is over here, and I need to shift it over here, and that's why I'm here. And that's why I'm here, okay? The second thing is, how do you shift that behavior, reach your objective, without compromising the relationship? Now, you've probably seen him do this before times too, where you feel like, gosh, he's really pressing this hard, but there's a history, there's trust, that's already there, and because the trust is there, you can watch him push people in this direction. And here's the other thing too. I've said this before. With 6 kids, how do you really show all the love and affection to all 6 of them that you'd want, whereas somebody's got 1 or 2? It's a matter of a lot of time, And we still take, Lisa and I make sure we take one-on-one time with each of them. In fact, last night, Hannah and I played cards together, and it was a one-on-one time. The night before was actually Ethan. But, see, I know that the rest of the kids felt loved on the day that I took Ethan out, because they know that that's coming for them and that it's there. With these guys, because there's such a history of Chanda saying, okay, Mike helped me with this, Bob, Mike helped me with this, with that there, they can know, okay, this is what Mike is engaging with here. He's turning me into the next Chanda Meta. That's a huge thing, okay? And so that trust is there. So you build a relationship. You know your objective, you build a relationship, and you keep your self-respect and core values while you're doing it. Sometimes you get so frustrated with people. You remember when you were running your office? You want this person to do well, to do more presentations, and you probably didn't ever cross the line, but you compromise your core values. That cost me the Branch Silver Cup. I tell that story about how I had 18 people in there, and they were just negative, and I was like, shut up, And what I compromised my self-respect and my core values, and as a result, I compromised the relationship. So if you can keep your self-respect and your core values while you're trying to make a change with somebody, and you're building a relationship at the same time, it is a win-win-win. If you try to do one of those without the other, it doesn't work. Know your objective, I want to try to get it done, I make this person do this, but I'm compromising the relationship, well, they're going to quit anyway. You might get it once out of them, but that's it. Keeping your self-respect, if you do it the wrong way, they might go, well, I can see that he tried to keep the relationship, he was, catering to my needs, he was also influencing me, but at the end of the day, I look at this guy and I'm like, what a loser. It doesn't work. So it's all of these things that need to be done. And Mike has really become good at that. Nobody's perfect in this. This is a huge thing. Nobody's perfect in it. You're going to make mistakes, but that's okay. Okay? As long as you think about those 3 things. So, for example, Dane, you want to influence when your district manager's not doing well. Hey, lay down the heat, but do it while you're building a relationship with self-respect. That's an example of it. Aaron, you got a branch manager that's not doing well. You're good at this, by the way, Aaron. I've seen you do it. But to dive in and look at all 3 of those things, sometimes people are looking just at the relationship. They're just trying to keep people retained. And the relationship is so important that there's no standards. And when there's no standards, they fade away. And then there is no trust either. Right. So then...
Lastly, you mentioned it, but Mike leads like himself.
He does. He's comfortable in his own skin. Despite a normal... And Mike, this is where I put it even in the notes here. I'm going to go on a limb and make an observation here about what's in your psyche as opposed to the actions. Everything else that I'm talking about are actions that you do that I've witnessed. This is actually going out on a limb and getting into your head a little bit, so you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but Mike is comfortable in his own skin despite healthy levels of self-doubt and opportunity doubt. I've never met a sane person who's not afraid of the negative consequences about what they're going to engage into. I mean, it's a little bit like if somebody kills all the nerves in their hand, and then they stick their hand in a fire, they can't feel it because the nerves aren't there. It doesn't make them courageous, brave, or tougher than anyone else. It actually would make them stupid because they're doing something that's going to destroy their hand despite the fact that they don't feel the pain. So being aware of pain is that healthy level of self-doubt, okay? Not an overestimation of a person. And that's really kind of the reverse way of saying it. It doesn't overestimate himself. And that's a very important thing. So to have some self-doubt about the opportunity or even what you're going to accomplish is good, as long as you deal with it in the privacy of your own home, okay? Privacy of your own office. That's the key thing. If you go out and you communicate that self-doubt as a leader to your organization, it's just going to permeate the environment, and it's going to be bad news altogether. So, you need to basically present confidence to get confidence in the business. And that's one of the reasons that some people, in the midst of an environment that other people crumble in, their organizations continue to prosper in. Now, Mike dealt recently with one of his managers who was really, really bummed out about the mailer. Couldn't stop talking about it, okay? And very nervous. And it looked pretty precarious. Not sure if they were going to get off the ground. Hugely successful. I'm not going into the details of who it is, but hugely successful already at this week. And one of the reasons is Mike never said you're wrong. I didn't ever hear when I talked to him, him going, yeah, Mike tells me I'm wrong, I should think. Mike was like, yeah, man, that stinks. But you know what? You're going to have to find another way. And there are other ways. So he validated the guy's concern. That's a huge thing, to be able to go to the person and say, this is a valid concern that you have, as opposed to you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Because that forces the other person to basically turn around and just want to prove their point. And they dig in deeper to show why they're going to not do well because of this. It was like, you're right, but you can do it anyway. And, I mean, is that the interaction that you had?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you felt the same thing.
Without a doubt.
So it's a realness. It's not an artificial positive. What other observations have you made talking to those people right now?
Everybody, it's almost like it's been a summer so far in the Chicago division of there is a way for us to be dominant again.
Yeah.
For us not only to be dominant over other people, which we haven't seen the national report yet, I'm thinking and hoping he's going to be number one. But not only that, but just being dominant over their own expectations and what they expect. It's that, regardless of how things go, we are going to prevail.
It's that whole concept of what are we going to do to make this summer work? Now, Kyle mentioned that, we're off 1 week in recruiting. We are. I mean, we just simply are 1 week behind in recruiting. And it's just, again, every single week it continues to be the same thing. This week again, we see that parallel. So we're not off in the summer, we're just off according to the calendar. Now that can get some people really nervous and then all of a sudden have this lower expectation. Mike actually, I think, has capitalized on this because it's like, okay, where there is nerves, retain, 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 retain. And if we can get this culture of retaining, which is an empowerment, it's not a what's going to happen to me thing, it's an empowerment thing, then we're going to be ready for the numbers when the numbers start to come in. Yeah. And since we're playing offense and we've got this aggressive attitude towards going after the summer regardless, then all of a sudden you're just going to catch lightning in a bottle. Right. And that's what's beginning to happen here. So drive that culture. You guys can make it happen. And I love working with all of you guys as division managers.